What's up, sports fans, for another week of the NFL, and it's time for my picks and predictions. Before we even get underway with week number 5, big problem here. Big major issue. I obviously can't pick football very well. I obviously cannot pick football very well because look at that score and look over here from last week and my good God. Yeah, no, this is not good. This is not good. I really got to step it up if I'm going to change these numbers. Obviously, this week wouldn't have been so bad without the tie. You know, generally speaking, there's only about 0 to 1 ties per season. You know, ties are quite rare in the NFL regular season. And, yeah, apparently we get one this early. And, of course, it was my upset pick, quote-unquote my upset pick. And we'll talk about it. But either way, let's go down the line. We already knew because of the lateness of the last recording, the last video, that Seattle Seahawks beat the Arizona Cardinals, and I picked them. We started off pretty strong after Thursday night. Then the Steelers beat the Vikings, and I thought, all right, cool. Things are going pretty well. Commanders getting destroyed by a Falcons team that couldn't score a single point against Carolina. What is happening? I don't understand the Falcons. I don't understand the Panthers. We'll get to the Panthers again. I really need to buy the sports package. With what money, I don't know. But apparently I need to watch all these games simultaneously to figure out exactly what went wrong each week so I don't make the same stupid mistakes I made this week. Because I pick against the Falcons, who got trashed by supposedly the quote-unquote worst team in the league, and then they managed to beat Washington, which once again is not, you know, a top 5 team. But, So anyways, we move on. Buffalo beats the Saints. Like, okay, that's normal. Things are going fine. Lions beat the Browns. Expected. And then New England comes out and scores over 40 points against the same Carolina Panthers, who scored 30 on Atlanta, gave up no points, and could barely get to, I think they scored 13 points total. So, brain just stopped computing with this one. I did not recover from that because then after Carolina's big loss, I picked the Chargers to beat the Giants, of course, because I picked the Giants last time, though I thought they did quite well against Kansas City. That's more Kansas City not being as good as everyone says, rather than the Giants being good. Should have known that going in, and I thought I did, and then, of course, they turn around and actually do well against the Chargers, so it's... And then I did make an upset pick in the Buccaneers to beat the Eagles. And the Buccaneers looked terrible. They really didn't do what they were supposed to do. I was like, okay, 2 3-0 teams going head-to-head. The Bucs look pretty good. And the Eagles look good, but they've only been winning each game by 1 possession, you know? And if supposedly the Cowboys are so bad, then how did that happen in week 1 as well? So I'm sitting here thinking, okay, maybe they finally found a matchup in the Buccaneers. But that shit, the Eagles were all over them on both sides of the ball, and there was just, you know, I think the Bucs tried to pick it up in the half, but, oh my God. So I did not clean up well, so I'm already behind at this point because I have 4 wins and 4 losses. And most people have, they're 7-1 right here, you know? So I'm already SOL. So I'm like, well, I got to clean up with these next ones. I better clean up, right? So Houston over Titans. I'm like, okay. My Rams beat the Colts. So I'm like, all right. Some people probably picked the Colts. Let's go. 49ers lose to the Jaguars. It's going to be that week. Yep, it's going to be that week. It's always early. I never have a really bad week. I never have a 6-7 point week late in the season, like week 10 or 11 when it's crunch time and matter. No. I always have it early and never fully recover because I never gain. I never do 3 13-point weeks in a row to catch back up. No. That never happens. So I'm behind, and this is my week that says to me I'm never catching up because, of course, the non-game doesn't matter to most people. It matters to me because I was one of the only people to pick the Cowboys. Out of 65 people, I was one of 3. So that would have been a huge win. And as I said, so the 49ers losing to the Jaguars. But apparently half the people picked the Jaguars. Baltimore Ravens, more people picked the Chiefs. And the Ravens looked like shit. The Ravens are the AFC Cowboys. They do not play when it matters. They're supposedly one of the best teams in the AFC, and they just don't show up to the big games. They do not put up points. They don't. Lamar doesn't do his thing. Flowers can't connect, and the best running back in the game just doesn't seem to want to play, or they know how to stop him, and that's all the whole offense knows how to do during that game for some reason. It boggles my mind. So I lose out on those. Bears beat the Raiders, but most people picked that, so it didn't matter. And then we get to the huge tie, which Cowboys-Packers. What a game. Once again, both teams making mistakes. Major mistakes that cost them the game. One guy getting extraordinarily lucky. Jordan Love making the biggest mistake with 1 second left. As Chris Collinsworth even said, he goes, I don't think he was counting that down correctly in his head, because half a second later, and he loses the game with no field goal attempt. That game should have ended 40-37. But even I can't argue that the play clock, but the ball hit the turf just at the 1 second mark. There was still a solid second, so it is what it is. But I'm sitting there like, he did not get penalized for one of the biggest mistakes and blunders I've seen a quarterback make in multiple seasons. So, yeah, that's a big mistake on Green Bay, and I don't think a single mistake the Cowboys made owns up to that one, because he got saved by happening to throw a low ball. Like, that was, whoa. If I was a Packers fan, I'd be livid. I would be livid, because that might have ended in a tie, but the Packers nearly threw it away. So, big deal there. But either way, a tie game. Of course, as I said, ties are very rare in the NFL. We get maybe about 1 to 2 a season, sometimes 0 for seasons on end. Sometimes we don't get ties in the whole season, or a couple in a row. So major. My unfortunate thing is some of my picks obviously didn't hit, and one of my upsets ends in a tie, so it's considered a non-game. So all the people who pick Green Bay don't get penalized, and I don't get anything for picking the upset of the Cowboys, even though it's a tie. So it sucks for me, because now I'm out another point I could have earned. Plus, the Jets, as I said, I switched my Miami pick to the Jets, and the Jets lost. And then, by the end of that, the Denver game from last night, the night before, the Denver game, I couldn't even stand to watch it, because by that point I was actually under the weather. I went to bed really early. I was feeling sick, and I needed to get up early for work in the morning, and I just was like, I gotta go to bed. Like, it's a wash of a game anyway. By the half, the Denver was dominating the Bengals the whole game, and I just wasn't into it, because I was looking at all the points I was making, and everyone else was getting like 10 and 11 points, and I'm sitting there like, I'm falling further and further behind in the standings. Nothing's going my way this week, so I just gave up and said, let's look towards week number 5, which we're going to get into right now. So we're officially now well underway with the football season, because it's time to play less than the full 16 games. We only have 14 games this week, and as you can see from the spread, I'm being a little bold. These are obviously subject to change, especially my Miami and Carolina pick. But let's just go down the list. The Rams over the 49ers, no question. The Rams have been doing well, and the 49ers have been they especially let me down last week. So not even playing with that. The Vikings are wishy-washy, and I need some wins that most people aren't going to go for. So I'm going for the Browns. If the Browns can beat the Green Bay Packers, they can beat the Minnesota Vikings. I got the Browns as a major Hail Mary upset, followed by a couple of much more solid picks, I would argue, in the Colts over the Raiders. Most people will pick that. Even though the Giants aren't the best team in the league, they're still considered better than the Saints, so I'm going with the more obvious New York Giants. Cowboys over Jets, once again, because even though I said it'll be time to finally pick against the Cowboys if they lose, they did not lose. In fact, they did what most people didn't expect them to do, and score over 40 points against the Green Bay Packers. So they can do that against the Jets. If the Jets lose to Miami, the Dallas Cowboys can beat the Jets. There's my logic, and I'm sticking to it. So we're going with the Cowboys there, though I still think most people are going to do that, given the good showing. Even though it didn't end in a W, it was still a great showing by the Cowboys. Then we have the Eagles over the Broncos, to no one's great surprise. If it wasn't going to be, LA couldn't do it, Kansas didn't do it, and Tampa Bay didn't do it, I don't think Denver's the one that the Eagles are going to lose to. I don't think the Eagles are going to have a perfect season, but I don't think it's Denver's time to shine quite here. So that one, I'm still going with the better bet in the Eagles. Then we get a little crazy. We go Carolina over Miami. Carolina lost last week to a terrible Patriots team. But in the same vein, Atlanta managed to win, and they're just, this whole dynamic is incredibly screwy. And Miami managed to beat up on the Jets, but still, that was a one-possession game down to the very end. So it's like, wait a minute, they let the Jets come back, and if Carolina can pull up the same stops from not last week, but the week before, maybe, I don't know, is Miami considered middle of the pack and Carolina is terrible? Or is Miami just the best of the worst? I don't know, and Carolina's been so inconsistent, but once again, like my Cleveland Browns pick, right now, tentative to change, probably not changing the Browns pick, but will probably change the Panthers pick every other day until the game, until football Sunday. I'll probably flip-flop with this pick, but for right now, we're locking it in at the Panthers. Next controversial pick, Texans over Ravens. The Ravens have only been letting me down this season. They're supposed to be one of the best teams in the AFC for the last 5 years, and they just don't do it. This year especially, they have not done it. They've won one goddamn game. They're like 1-4 or something. No, I'm not doing it. I'm not betting on the Ravens again. I'm going with the Texans because I know, and what's going to piss me off is that this is the game Baltimore's going to show up. They're going to score 38 points. Texans are going to barely get a touchdown. It'll be like 38-12. It will be the final score, and Texans will have had no chance in hell. But, of course, it's the week that I'll pick against the Ravens. So, once again, subject to change. But right now, I'm feeling a little more spicy with my picks because, as I said, I'm getting further and further behind the 8 ball. It's going into week 5, and I have less than 40 wins. That's not good. At this point, I need about an average of 42, 43 to even be considered in the running, so I'm half a week behind in points. That's not good. So we're going for some little more crazy ones. I even thought about picking the Titans in the next pick, but I'm going to go with the Cardinals, though once again, I feel this game is going to go down to the wire as well. I don't see either team dominating on either side of the field, so yeah, that's that one. And even though Tampa Bay let me down last week, I'm going with them over the Seahawks because I feel like Tampa Bay wants to prove like, okay, we got washed last week. We should have done better. Let's come out of the gate, a little bit better this week and stuff. I'm hoping that I'm hoping that they make some major adjustments from last week, realize what they did wrong, and then they come out and be the 3-0 team that went in against the Eagles rather than the ones that just lost to the Eagles, right? Then we clean up with the very obvious picks going forward. Lions, Chargers, Bills, and Chiefs to end off the week. And, of course, Monday Night Football. Because Bengals are unlikely to beat the Lions. The Patriots are probably not beating the Bills. Kansas City, while still not as good as I think it'll still be a one-possession game. But somehow Kansas City still seems to have a winning record. When they start trying, even though they don't have a winning record right now, but they'll get there. I don't know. It's just I don't feel like Jacksonville has what it takes to beat the Chiefs right down to the wire. This is probably going to be like the Giants game. It's going to be neck and neck by a field goal maybe for 3/4 of the game, and then the KC will turn it on for 2 major touchdowns in the fourth quarter when it matters to end the game. Boom, done. Right? But Jacksonville will give them a run for their money for 3/4 of the game, just like the Giants did. That's the way I'm predicting it to go. And once again, Washington lost to Atlanta, who lost to Carolina. The Chargers might have lost as well to the Giants, but the Giants are better than Washington. There's an argument there. I don't know. That one's a little screwy. I'm like, all right, so the Lions, Bills, and Chiefs picks are kind of solid. The Chargers one's a little... I can see people taking the Commanders, but I'm still going with the Chargers even though they lost because both these teams lost last week. And obviously, looking at this, I don't know how to pick football anyway. So nobody listen to me. Let me know what your guys' picks are. And we'll see you back here next week for some more football action. Hopefully, this spread nets me a solid 12 points. Like, I can't afford to lose any more than, like, 2 games for the next, like, 4 weeks to even be considered back in the running. So that's how behind I am. And that's how good some of the other people in the pool are. So let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe. And we'll catch you back here next time. Have a good one, everyone. Sayonara.